And also feel free to tell us in the chat box, what is the issue you aim to address with an alumni grant? And if you have a project idea, please feel free to share. So with that, I want to introduce our two alumni speakers today. And myself. My name is Jenny St. John, and I'm a Senior Program Officer at American Councils for International Education, working on all things YES Alumni. And if you choose to apply for a YES Alumni Grant, you will communicate with me a lot in the process. And then let's turn it over to Ahmad. Ahmad, could you introduce yourself?
Hello everyone, this is Ahmad from Palestine. I am 2012-2013 YES alumni. I have been hosted in Vermont, Bennington, Vermont, with a wonderful host family. And in 2018, I have had my YES grant project, and that's for now.
Great. And Lincoln, would you introduce yourself?
Hello everybody. My name is Lincoln Ninneh. I am from Liberia. I was on the program in 2013-2014. I was hosted in Nolensville, Tennessee.
Great, thank you, Lincoln. And before we launch into the interview, I'd like to turn it over to our colleagues at the State Department. Introducing to you Chris Mccoy, who would like to say a few words.
Hi there. Thanks so very much, Jenny. I'm delighted to be here today. Wanted to introduce or acknowledge the great team at the Department of State's Bureau of Education and Cultural Affairs, some of whom are on the call today, Kevin, Katya, Jennifer, and our fearless leader, Michelle. Also, thanks to Jenny and the rest of the crew at American Councils for organizing these sessions and also for the great work that they do on alumni affairs. I'm a foreign service officer, so usually I work in embassies overseas. I worked in Skopje as the Assistant Cultural Affairs Officer, and while I was there, I met YES and YES Abroad participants and alumni. And that was among the best experiences of my tour and of my career. So I encourage all of you alumni to keep in touch with the embassy local staff and foreign service officers. We love hearing about and being inspired by your successes. And we can share your stories with the decision makers in DC to help them understand the value of supporting these exchanges and alumni projects like the ones you're going to hear about. I look forward to hearing about Ahmad's and Lincoln's projects, and I wish the best to all of you who are putting forward proposals for funding. Thanks.
Thank you, Chris. Okay, so with that, Ahmad, could you please start us off and give us an overview of your grant project?
Hello again, everyone. So my project was named Anna. Anna means me in Arabic. And Anna was a women empowerment and self-defense program designed for female university students in Palestine. It was a 9-month consecutive 3-phase program starting from theoretical education about women's rights, internationally and locally, women's current situation regarding violations and achievements in the same level. Second phase was a physical training of self-defense, how to defend yourself physically, taking actual courses with actual moves and so on. And the third phase was basic life skills after graduation, preparing for the participants to start their career off strongly, independently, and with the motivation. So it was done back in 2018. I did it in my local university. I had 20 female participants, and the program is still going in different way. The females at the end of the project are now forming a feminine-empowered volunteering group, doing volunteerism on a regular basis, all by themselves, and that's why I would call it successful step in this project. Thank you.
Great. And Ahmad and Lincoln, you guys can feel free to please turn on your video as long as your connection is strong enough. So, and all right. And Lincoln has actually received 3 YES Alumni Grants over the last few years. So Lincoln, can you tell us a little bit about your project?
Thank you very much. Once again, my name is Lincoln Ninneh. And so over the last time, I have been able to win 3 different grants, and all of them have actually been in the areas of diabetes education. The first project was called Teach for Healthy Lives. And with that, what we actually do was we organize called diabetes education awareness with community leaders and also with youth leaders. And then we carry out community house-to-house diabetes testing and screening. The second project was called Community Health Promoters. What we did with that project was that we organized a training for 30 young people, and we trained them how to be health promoters in their various communities, how to be agents of change when it comes to the issues of health promotion. And the third was diabetes and disability. I say is because it's currently ongoing. And this project, we extended diabetes education to persons living with disabilities. And the project was implemented in 2 counties in Liberia, Mccoy County and Bank County. Yeah, so basically those were the 3 projects, and all of them were in the areas of health promotion and diabetes education, to be specific.
Great, Lincoln, thank you. So Lincoln, if you can stay on and address this first question, what previous experience did you have with addressing your project's key issues before implementing the project? Okay,
so before implementing the projects, we first of all try to identify how we going to engage with stakeholders, that are community leaders that are within the particular location that we are going to address, let's say implement a particular project. So we kind of engage them, make sure that everything is on course, make sure that our timing schedules also are going well. And then we, kind of engage them and make sure that everybody is aware of our activities there before we start the implementation process. Hello?
Great, thanks, Lincoln. And Ahmad, can you tell us a little bit about your previous experience?
Yes, so for my project, it was basically about women's rights and women empowerment. I was aware of the issue itself, that there is a rapid increase in women rights violation, sexual harassment, work sexual harassment, marginalization in different levels in the whole community, not only in Palestine, but the whole world. But actually, I didn't have enough knowledge about this specific issue. Instead, I have had good project management skills, coordination skills, networking, and problem solution skills. So to be honest, I didn't have full understanding of the whole thing when I started, but I have applied my different skills to be able to design this grant, design this course, and overcome all different obstacles I might have to achieve this project.
Great, thank you. And Ahmad, this next question is for you. What are the top pieces of advice you would give alumni who are preparing a project proposal? They're in the drafting and writing phase.
So when you're working, Should I wait? I think the interpreter just stopped, so I don't want them to
You're
miss
good
anything.
to go. But can we switch the spotlight for the interpreter?
I'm working on it. I believe, Jenny, are you able to do it? I believe my co-hosting abilities were removed.
Oh, my apologies. I have made you co-host again, and I'm just looking for Vanessa.
It's Cheryl now.
Cheryl, sorry.
Charles, spotlight.
Okay, go for it, Ahmad.
Okay, so regarding what advice do I give you for preparing the project proposal? First of all, you should always do the research. Deal with it like you're doing with any other business. Take it this way. So before you take any step further, you should know where you're standing, do your research, understand your surrounding, the environment, the behavior of people around you regarding this project. So do the research. That's number one. Number two, be realistic about your project. It's always good that you have high expectations, high ambitions, but always think that it's something that could be applicable to your community in order to make it a success. Third is while you're doing your research, always look for experts. Ask your friends, some people you trust, about their ideas about this project. What can I do best? Write your proposal once, look at twice, 3 times, 4 times. Always keep updating, upgrading your project. Of course, don't leave it for last minute before deadline. Give yourself some time ahead. Keep thinking of it, researching, consulting others, and keep in mind that you want to achieve your goals. So in your research, set up your goals. What am I seeking out of this grant project to achieve what in my community? And when you do all these things in the final steps, make sure to review your application once, twice, 3 times until you make sure you're addressing your ideas 100%. You're making it clear for the committee to understand very well and that you can achieve everything that you have wrote. So that's it. To sum up, do your research, be realistic, consult with others and with the experts and specialists in this field, and review, and apply before the deadline, of course.
Great, thank you, Ahmad. And Lincoln, this next question is for you. What are the key pieces of advice you would give your fellow alumni for preparing a project budget?
All right, so one thing I will recommend in preparing a project budget is you should be able to identify the most important things in your project, that is prioritize your project expenses. So you want to know what would be most important, what I'm preparing my budget, what would I need most, what I'm implementing the program. So those things can be high on your budget. And when you identify these things earlier, what happens is in terms of funding, cost shares, donation, you can be able to communicate with people who you will get buy-ins from, and then they can be able to probably take care of those most important things before you start going into making up the actual budget for that you will send to American councils or the grant programs. So you first of all got to also do your price research. In other words, we call it window shopping. You know exactly what you're going to include within your budget. You know how much it costs. This is helpful because it will avoid you kind of overestimating or underestimating certain items within your budget. So, like for example, when you budget things in many settings, sometimes full cost is usually very high. And so sometimes you want to work around things like what would be most feasible. For example, is the sessions going to last very longer? If it's going to last very longer, then you use maybe big meals. If it's going to be a very short session, you use snacks. so that your budget cost will be low. But it's most important to keep your budget as low as possible, and then you should try to prioritize the most important things.
Great, thank you, Lincoln. And Ahmad, back to you. What are the key pieces of advice that you would give fellow alumni for the actual implementation of the project? You have been approved, the funds have arrived to you. What do you recommend for implementation?
So once you start implementing your project, the first thing is you should be proud of yourself because you have been approved, you have been selected among all other maybe hundreds or thousands of applicants. So you take the chance to apply your ideas finally. But before we go further, I would just like to add to my friend about the financial part. Just keep in mind, guys, that when you're preparing your financials and in the proposal phase, just keep in mind that if you're living in a country that has high fluctuation of the dollars regarding to your current local currency, just keep in mind that it might be different when you apply, when you actually implement the project. So just keep this in mind, highlight this somewhere, and maybe you can use the tracking of the previous prices of currency trading. So you're not like surprised that you have low budget or overhead budget. So getting back to the implementation now, when you start implementing your project, keep moving upon your plan. Keep all stakeholders informed of what you're doing at the moment. Keep Jenny informed. Keep your YES coordinator involved. Your all stakeholders, like if you have many participants from different places, keep them informed. Where are we now? What are we going to do next? For example, in my case, if you have a group of volunteers or so on, keep them informed. We did this now, we succeeded in this phase, we're moving to the other one, and so on. And also keep track of your spendings. You have a budget. First of all, save all your receipts for the reporting phase, and keep tracking of your spendings. Am I spending right in this phase? Am I not? My recommendation is to spread your project spending on Excel sheet or phases that I'm gonna spend this much for this phase, and then you can move on if I have extra or low, so you have good management. So just apply your management skills here, financial management skills. And if you need any help, anything, always remember that you are part of a great network, the YES Alumni Network. And if you have any problem, always seek help, of course. You're not alone by this project, not you, not your team. You are never just letting go everything. And stay always positive. And as I said earlier, be proud of yourself, of what you're doing now and the future also.
Great, Ahmad, thank you. Lincoln, can you tell us a little bit about who your project partners were and how you got them on board, how you got their support?
Okay, so the primary partners for my project is the diabetes clinic at the Grantee United Methodist Hospital. So since we are involved with work in diabetes education, we thought it was very necessary for the diabetes clinic to be our primary partner. And since I am a nursing student and I sometimes go there for practice and clinicals, I was able to easily connect with the people at the clinic, and the connections were able to easily get agreements from them and get their approval that they are going to help us support. And another thing is you got to be able to convince the people you want to have as your partner. You got to be able to convince them. And we also try to convince them that, okay, since you are at the clinic and you are taking care of the treatment aspect of the disease condition, we can help you on the outside. We can be your arm for the community and help to extend the message that you already have, things that you're already doing, and help you to extend the message out there to the public so that they'll be able to prevent the disease condition. Yeah, so that's basically how we're able to get in touch with our partners.
Great. And how about your partners, Ahmad?
So my partners were phases driven. So when I started my project and my planning, the first phase, I looked for every phase who can help me the most. I started with my university professors who are experts in this field, women empowerment, human rights, and so on. And they helped me with the research, the preparations, and so on. And also in the first phase, I got a professional women rights trainer and women empowerment trainer, actually, who was happy to volunteer and provide some cost sharing, we called in the proposal. And second phase, I got a local fitness center here in Palestine that gave me a self-trainer to help the females during the second phase of physical training. In the third phase, I got also helped by a basic life skills trainer. We call it optimistic and life coaching. So they gave us the trainings and so on. And also we have networks with so many local institutions that helped us providing the venue. Sometimes they provided sometimes they provided the food, the catering, and so on, the delivery, and so on. So, and by the way, here, most of the times, all these networking and all this networking has paid off because most of the partners have applied the cost sharing method. So you don't have to pay for them to do this. They are partners with you in this project, so you don't have the consulting fees. Instead, they do it for free for you. And they help you also get other things for free by their network. So it's about networking, and networking. That helps you so much in your budgets and your implementation and so on.
Great, thank you. And I would just want to note on what Ahmad was saying that, you know, anytime you have partners who are doing some kind of service or providing something for your project, that is cost share, and it should go into your budget that you submit with your proposal. Cost share makes your application stronger, and because it demonstrates that you have community buy-in for your project. So next question is for Ahmad as well. First, Ahmad, can you tell us about how you chose your project team and what advice you can give on that?
Yeah, so when you're forming your team, of course, you should have a team because it helps distribute the load of the work, the efficiency of the whole team, the whole project. So when I started forming my team, I looked for forming my team in this session. I looked for people who can help me the most. I didn't look for people who I enjoy spending time with, or my friends, for example. You look for people, it's like just you're hiring someone for a position. So you're looking for someone with special characteristics, you're looking for specific skills that someone has. So you're not perfect. If you have something that you can't do, you have some gaps, or everyone has to have some gaps, some weaknesses. So try to find some people who can fill in these gaps to empower your project. Of course, they could be your friend, but also try to make it professional as possible to benefit us the most out of it.
Great. And how about your project team, Lincoln? What advice would you give? You're muted.
Sorry. Okay, I'm sorry. I did. All right. So, like my colleague said, one of us is to make sure that you are incorporating people that will be able to fill out the gaps that you have when it comes to your weaknesses. I think that's a very important point that I also want to stress. And also, one thing you want to do is you should be able to work with people, should be able to identify people who will as well express some form of interest or see the same vision that you see in terms of identifying your problem. So that's very key, because if somebody does not have interest in what you do, and maybe you just try to make them a part of the team because you want team members, at the end of the day, you will have problem getting them to work with you, accordingly. So it's important that you take that into consideration.
Great. And Lincoln, if you can stay on for a second, next question is to you first. Were there any aspects of your project that didn't go according to plan, where you had to kind of divert to plan B?
Yeah, so one aspect, it happened during my most recent project, which is the diabetes and disability project, And in that, hello, are you getting me? Okay, so in that, the most recent one was the diabetes and disability project. And in that, we had to use the sign language interpreter. So now we arranged for somebody, the project was in 2 locations. We arranged for somebody to do the interpretation for both project location 1 and project location 2, because we couldn't find somebody to do the interpretation in project location 2. So now the person agrees, and then we did the negotiation. They accepted that they were going to join us in project location 2 to help us with the interpretation. Now, unfortunately, when the time comes for the second location of the project, the person was not available. And then we tried getting to the person and we couldn't really get them. And what happened, we tried to see if we could possibly find someone else within the second project location who could help us do the interpretation. But unfortunately, that didn't happen. So what we did was we decided to communicate with those people using writings. So for example, the speakers will be there, and then we will write down some key points that the speaker will mention, and then show it to the audio impaired and the verbally impaired student. Give it to them, they will read, and then they will communicate back to us. And so that way the message went across. And another thing, we were able to print out copies of the presentations. So we gave them the copies of the presentations, and they were able to also go home and read those presentations.
Awesome. And also, Lincoln, can you talk a little bit about the fact that you applied for a 2020 YES Alumni Grant, not expecting COVID-19 to strike the world? How has that changed your project?
Exactly. So COVID-19, the timeline for our project was initially in October. But then due to COVID, we had to change the timeline, I think about 2 different times. And I mean, because of COVID, we couldn't go by the original timeline. And during the implementation process, we of course had to go by everything that, the protocols ensure that the preventive measures were followed. We had to find, we had to go and buy some extra materials like the hand sanitizers, make them available. We had the hand washing buckets and those sanitary materials, make them available and ensure that everybody were following the preventive protocols. We had to get masks for the people, both the participants and the facilitators. And then we had to do all of that. And that is how COVID kind of affected our project.
Great. So I'm hearing that you need a lot of flexibility.
Yes, exactly.
And Ahmad, did you have any situations where things didn't go according to plan?
Yes, of course. Nothing goes perfectly for a 9-month program. One main issue we had or situation is during the proposal phase, we relied on having the venue at my local university. But unfortunately, when we started implementing, the university was full house, no space to take a room for such trainings that goes once a week. So we went out of place for a little time, but it was good because it opened new horizon for the program, new opportunities. we looked for other place to host us, and we found someone nearby in the same area. It was an old house, an old student gathering house, co-studying, co-working place, but it was a little bit old, but it had the room, it had the logistics, so it was perfectly fine. And we had to make a trade with them, so we used their place for free. In return, we should help them renovate the place at some point. So what we did is when we finished the third phase, we had some voluntary activities. So we did an activity there, renovating the place, some what they call here manly jobs, sewing and building bricks and painting the walls and so on. So we helped them renovate the place to make it more modern, more beautiful, more attractive for students. So it was a win-win situation, and actually it helped the program to escalate more because without this specific volunteerism activity, this one specific, we wouldn't have reached here actually, because it was the girls did manual work, they renovated the place they actually trained at, so it was taking and giving at the same place. So it was a win-win situation, win-win-win for the project, the girls, and the place itself.
Great. And actually, Ahmad makes a great point there that when you are forming partnerships for your project, it's not just about what you can give or what you can receive. It's also about what you can give and making these partnerships mutually beneficial. Next question, Lincoln, how did you promote your project beforehand and share the results afterward?
So the promotion aspect of my project was basically the use of the social media. So prior to the implementation of the project, we will post on social media a couple of times, explain details about the project, give updates on the timelines about the project, when this activity will be done and where will it be done, what will be the components of the events. And so we basically use the social media to promote the project before. And during the implementation, we also use the social media, and especially during session, we use videos, short videos. You kind of take those clips and post them, and you also use photos, obviously, to post on the Facebook event. So the promotion, the more you post on Facebook, the more you draw attention to your project. That's the basic. I mean, and not only Facebook, and social media for that matter. You could use Instagram, you could use Facebook and Twitter. But the more you post your project activities on social media, the more you draw attention. So it's best to post a couple of times before implementation, and while you are implementing, you update your project activities. And then after implementation, you can also still post on social media to remind people about the impact of your project.
Great, thanks, Lincoln. And how about you, Ahmad? How did you promote and share results of your project?
So I was continuously promoting my project, not only the results, but during the whole program. Of course, number one, social media, my personal page, my friends page, and my networks, like media partners I had from the day one. They help out archiving, representing the project, where it's now, where it's going. And of course, use social media, video materials so much on my personal page and the partners page as well. And when we finished the program, we went for some media coverage process. We had some interviews with the national TV, for example, the morning show. We represented the results and the whole process. We have been hosted on some other TV shows. We had some radio interviews as well. And actually, just for you guys, you should know that media is always looking for content to share about, especially local media. So don't hesitate to approach them, tell them what is your project, contact them formally or informally if you have any networks with them, and tell them about your story. Every grant project is a success story already. and it's something unique, something solving a community problem that everyone is thinking about. So media is looking for you, so just to show them that I'm here, this is my project. It helps a lot. It's not that hard. In my personal experience, when I went on the national TV in the first interview, and then all the others just came like that, like without any efforts from my side. They just contacted me, taking my number, asking for interviews and so on. So just keep talking about your program wherever you go, social media, online, offline, with media, with wherever you can talk about your project. It's your little baby, so promote it very well. And always try to link it to your yes experience, because this gives people the opportunity to know more about this exchange program. You have benefited from it, and that's why you are here now doing this grant project. So make people know about this, the young people, 10th and 9th graders, so they can apply for it and start their own success story, just like you do. So just open new doors for others. And I always say, be proud of your project and promote it proudly as well.
Great, thank you. All right, we have one more interview question, and then we will move on to more Facebook Live viewers ask questions. So Ahmad, can you tell me what one aspect of your project was most successful, and what's the one aspect you would change if you have to do it all over again?
The main success of this project, like it was from day one, is to have an impact on the participants, the 20 girls who participated in this project. And we successfully and thankfully achieved this. When we finished the third phase, the volunteerism phase and so on, the girls approached me and told me that, Ahmad, we would like to form a volunteerism group 100% powered by females. Which means that I am out of it. So they formed their own group, 100% feminine powered. They started applying the skills and the empowerment they got from the training itself, the program. And that's how I always say that ANA program is still alive until now, because of this impact it had on these girls and the giving back they do to the community. They're not giving back to ANA, they're giving back to the community itself, and that's the main point. When you believe that you should give back to your community, it means that you're affiliated, you have high self-esteem, high confidence, and you have high motivation to motivate others, not only yourself. So that's about the success. About something I would change, it's very specific actually. When I did my grant project, I thought of a 9 months program, once a week session. But when you finish the first phase, I noticed that maybe this is too long, too stretched, too long for the formation of the group itself, the effect that it can have. So maybe if I would do something the other way, I would just compress it a little bit, do it faster. Like maybe I would do it half the time or even third the time. And because this helps strengthen and form the team itself. So just the time frame, maybe it was right when I did it, but I would change it if I do it again.
Great, thank you. And Lincoln, that same question to you. What aspects of your projects have been most successful, and what aspects would you change? Or actually, perhaps since you've done 3 projects, what have you learned from the first to the last?
Okay, so first of all, a lot of things have been successful about our projects. And one key thing about the last project was the fact that we were able to train 30 young people. So we were able to train 30 young people, and those 30 young people were able to go back into their community, and at the same time were able to teach out those things to other people. And one good thing that has resulted from all of the projects is the fact that we were able to build a community, establish an initiative as a result of all of those projects we've been carrying out. So we train people, and at the end of the day, we are able to incorporate them to be a part of us and also continue on the education process. So that way, the education we give out to people, they are able to use this in turn to benefit their communities. And we think that is something that is very successful about the project. And what have I learned over the time period? One thing that I learned is whenever you are doing a project, it's important to always stay in connection with the community, always keep the community engaged, even when you are not doing a project. Be involved with the community. That way, when you are about to undertake a project, it becomes a lot more easier for you to get the community's cooperation. So always stay engaged with the community, even outside of your own project activities, is really important.
Great. Thank you, guys. All right, so it is now question time. So please feel free to enter any questions into the chat box or as a Facebook Live comment, or you can raise your hand if you know how to do that raise your hand function if you'd like to unmute or ask your question on your video. And so Hannah, what questions do we have?
Hello. Well, one of the questions that we have for Jenny specifically is that some of the grantees are interested in purchasing meals for their participants in order to sort of encourage them to come and participate. So what would you say to someone that was interested in, purchasing several meals for their participants?
Great. So let me approach this. So it is in many cultures, food is an important part of events and gatherings. I know Lincoln spoke a little bit about this, about making a manageable food budget. I think the number one thing is you must consider the length of time of your event. If your event is a 3-hour event in the morning, you don't need to provide a full meal. Heavy snacks are more than sufficient for a 3-hour event. If you have a full day event, providing lunch for your participants is completely fine. But we need to see in your budget that you are looking for cost-effective ways of providing this food. So Lincoln mentioned, for example, of finding approaches that you can do to reduce reduce significant food costs in your budget. Some alumni, for example, they have if they have a high number of participants and providing lunch will result in their grant budget being food being a significant portion of their grant budget, they and their project teams have gone to the supermarket to buy food that they can prepare themselves, like a bagged lunch or a sandwich, something like that. I've had other alums in the past that they have made partnerships with a local restaurant or partnerships with an organization who will help provide cost share for some of their food costs. So I think just essentially why we look at a disproportionate amount of your budget going towards food is that this grant is not for throwing a feast or a party. So we want to see that you have carefully considered your food needs based on the length of your program and that you have sought out cost-effective means of providing snacks or meals for your program.
Thank you, Jenny. We have a question from Iliad from Tunisia. He is directing this question to both Ahmad and Lincoln. How did you guys keep organized and keep all the details of your project in order to make sure that you had a comprehensive report at the end? Do you guys have any tips on, the whole reporting process and how to keep everything in check?
I can take it if you don't mind. So for the recording during the implementation, it has two parties. The first one is the financial part. Of course, whatever penny you pay, you should record it. You should have a document that says, I paid this for this person, and in return of this service. So keep recording of your financials is very important. If you can get an invoice, a printed one, or so on, you can. I think Jenny, you can help me here. You can write it down that I paid. My name is Ahmad. I paid this amount of money for this guy in return of this service, but he can't give me a voucher because of whatever reason. And you can sign it, both of you, on this paper. I think this could be credible until now, right, Jenny?
Yes, we understand that there are some things you cannot get receipts for. For example, if you and your project team members are taking the local bus, it is likely the bus driver is not going to give you a receipt. So we do have systems in place for you to create and document things. So I think in essence, save all the receipts that you can. And then if you can't get a receipt, then you can create one yourself. And I would just like to add to this very quickly. I think the most important thing for being sure that you stay organized is that you carefully review the final report before you even start your project. So you have access to the report form beforehand. Read through the report, understand everything that you will need once you submit the final report so that you know what you need to be doing from day one. Hannah, I believe we have...
Sorry, we're receiving a lot of great questions. Next, I'm going to pass the floor on to Gus, who has a question that he will ask through our ASL interpreter, Cheryl.
Hello, everyone. So I'm involved in, currently my question is, we've been having difficulty with mail. I understand that in America, this may be a common expectation. Expectations here may be different. So we may not have that type of perfect documentation of food costs and things like that. Things may change. So I'm wondering, is there a program that we can, we may not have the ability to accurately document the way so I'm wondering if there's help, especially for when we want to provide food because there's not enough food and we want to spend our money, but not spend all of our money on food. And because we need money to work on the projects, but the participants need some help. They may need help for food, for providing just lunch, of course, as you mentioned, and not an entire large meal. But this has been a struggle for us. This has been a real struggle for us, and we've emailed the program and the office to talk about helping us to adjust our programming and see if we can be more successful with providing more in the way of food for our participants, because that is a great way of recruiting people to be involved and showing people that we are, I'm sorry, the camera's freezing. You froze the last few minutes. last part again, please. I'm sorry, Gus is frozen again. I'm sorry, I'm asking for the last sentence again because he had frozen there. So we have many different program activities we're thinking about, but we're going to try to focus on one for the year. And we're trying to get more people to be involved and donate to help with covering these costs. But as for now, we are, again, of course, very excited to apply. And if you have anything to add, Vanessa. So the concern basically is on providing food and having ways to accurately track that.
Great. So I think I'm understanding this question twofold, is using food kind of as a way to convince people to get to become a part of your program. And I would say be cautious about that. The aim of these grant projects is not as primarily to feed people. And you want participants who want to come to your project based on the content and what you're offering beyond food. Food is a supplement to make sure that your participants are not hungry during your events, but it is not the purpose of your grant project. YES Alumni Grants are not used as charity or donation. It is a project that you are conducting to benefit your community on to increase civic engagement, increase entrepreneurship, just as two examples. So food should not be your focus. Food is a supplement. And then regarding documentation, I think I addressed this previously to what Ahmad spoke about, and that's, we understand that it's not always easy to get receipts for every expense, and we completely understand that. Your goal as a grant recipient is to get as many receipts as you possibly can, and for any receipts for any expenses that it is impossible to get a receipt, we do accept for alumni grantees to write out their own documentation. And that could be something like you write your own receipt and you have the trainer, for example, sign off that they, that you gave them $10 for their transportation, for example. So we do have systems in place, and we will definitely provide more information and work with you if awarded a grant.
Thank you, Jenny. I have another question from the chat that I'm going to direct to either Lincoln or Ahmad. I think because Ahmad answered the last one, I'm going to ask Lincoln. So in general, grant recipients who receive over $500 only receive 80% of their funds upfront, and then after they submit their final report, they receive the final 20%. And so a question for Lincoln is, what would you suggest to people in how to get that 20% from, how do you generate that 20% that you still need in the beginning of the project to then be paid back later?
So it depends on the report generating the 20%. It depends on the report you have with the the businesses you'll be dealing with, and also the partners that are involved within your project. So like normally for most of the businesses we deal with, we engage them and explain to them, show them all of the documentation from the YES program that this is what we are doing. And we assure you that if you can give us this item, and we can owe you some money, and when the 20% gets back, we can give you some money. And normally they agree when they see all of the supporting documents from the YES program, they can trust you and agree to give out something that you can pay them back later. But then you also document that. So for example, normally we go to people that have their own receipts so that they can also have the record, and we have the record. So you go to standard businesses to do that purpose, let's say for that purpose, and then you engage them, and then you can go about getting items from them and later pay back when your 20% arrives.
Thank you, Lincoln. I'll also add one more note for that. And that is that if your situation, hold on, sorry, let me change out the interpreter here. Change out the interpreter spotlight, great. Every grant project situation is different. And if receiving the first 80%, if it's impossible for you to finish your project without the full 100%, just email me and let's talk about that. Every grant project is different, and we can certainly discuss ways that we can work around this, even if it means doing your accounting early, for example, so that you can receive the final 20%. I know that there are still more questions, so I would like to share with you some final points and where you can send your final questions. Sorry, get organized here to share my screen. All right. That's not the page, sorry. Okay, so how do you get started? This is the online application link, which if you are able to screenshot, you can go for it. If not, this is available all over YES social media and the website. You can absolutely find it elsewhere. There is also a resource library for you. You can find resources here like video guides, best practice documents, and other sample documents. You can also download a PDF of all the application questions so that you can have these at hand as you're working through your project proposal. And also just check the YES website and social media. It's really rich with inspiration. If you go on the YES website under stories and search YES Alumni Grants, you'll find many stories of grant projects that alumni have conducted over the years. And finally, if you have other questions, I know that there are questions we didn't get to today, but please email yesalumni@americancouncils.org. I'm happy to address all of your questions, and we're here to support you. All right, and with that, we will sign off. Thank you so much for attending today. I'd like to thank once again our colleagues at ECA for attending. And like I said, email me if you have questions. I'm happy to help support you.